What's up, Vaultheads? So today I'm having a look at the latest Borderlands 4 gameplay trailer. This was released in conjunction with the deep dive state of play gameplay footage, but rather than have my content too long, I'm just going to look at the gameplay trailer today. I'm just going to be rambling, I'm going to be spitballing a load of stuff. There is information in what I say which very well may turn out to be spoilers, so if you don't want any of the story of the game ruined, then you don't want to watch this. A lot of it is just my speculations, just having a bit of fun with that, but you know, there's some things that I may hit a home run on, so you know, at your own risk. But let's get into this. I've slowed everything down to quarter speed, but we'll just stop as we go through and I'll just spit out a load of stuff. We've got the shot here that we've seen of the timekeeper before, but we, you know, as I've noted before, we have the first time we've ever seen a manufactured vault door. Normally it's the Iridian tech that is sort of pulling these rocks back together and then they form the archway for a portal. But here we have one that is either completely synthetic or has been designed to force those rocks into composition in order to try and open something. And we also have this alignment with Elpis. Elpis is very important in the story of Borderlands 4 and we've seen it all over the footage so far. But the alignment here with the key, with the timekeeper up to stuff, I assume that maybe this key is being used to open something inside Kairos, and this door is a part of that process. Perhaps this isn't even actually who the timekeeper is. This could be either a representation of him, or it could be someone that the timekeeper is somehow controlling, maybe from inside Kairos, and then is using a number of different machines and bits and pieces that we see on Kairos to maybe try and open the planet, similar to how the Calypsos were trying to open the Great Vault of Pandora. But we will have to wait and see where that goes in the story. I like the design on the timekeeper. I think that it's a good look, good vibe. We're going to see a lot more of this, but if there's one thing that Borderlands 4 is all about, it is triangles. There are triangles all over this game. The only other thing we see as much is gold, and we can see some gold features here on the timekeeper. A little bit of sort of an Egyptian vibe with these sort of, I don't know, these sort of overlay sort of bits on his eyes here, but then we have this sort of gold liquid running down his face, and this is asymmetrical rather than looking like it could be like part of an outfit or something. It looks as though maybe the gold, we'll call it, is perhaps a material or a substance that is being used to enhance life or empower people. I think this is something that comes up a bit in the trailers so far, but as if this is maybe just a sign that he has this kind of stuff coursing through him that is empowering him. And we'll touch on that a little bit more in a moment. I really should look up the voice actor's name, but I think this is voiced by the same actor that did Lothar Rendane in Battleborn, which is the voice of Torg, and a number of other voices throughout Borderlands. Very, very good voice actor, very cool guy. So it's good to see him taking the role of the bad guy again, and hopefully with an audience that's going to be able to appreciate it this time around. And then we get a clip here of Vex with some of her abilities on display. We get a movement here. She's doing a bit of a glide as she comes down, which is one of the new parts of the movement for the Vault Hunters. You know, have double jump, glide, and I think a dodge or a strafe, whatever you want to call it. So that's good to have some improvements there. And we saw her sort of pet ability here. This guy is called Trouble and is going to be one of her specific skill trees, with some other things that are able to be used with him as you rank up Vex. Vex is a terrible name. I assume this can only be some sort of ridiculous marketing thing to try and take some attention through people that are searching stuff to do with Destiny, as they have an entire race called Vex. You should have called her Vax or Vux or Vox. Anything other than Vex, that's just really, really dumb. Just feels very corporate. We see her here with, I think this is one of the new mixed manufacturer weapons. I think the red camouflage is signifies that. So we have a new weapon system where you used to have the guns in Borderlands games that were a number of components that when you spawned the item, it would then come together and there would be different scopes and different stocks and barrels and whatever, and the specific combination of those that spawned created a gun, and then that gun had a prefix that was your variant, and the stats for each of those components would vary how good that weapon was. So you could have a gun that was called the Volty Shoot McFadden, and you know, you could have a version of that that would be then the Longview Shoot. I can't remember what I said now. Okay, let's just call it the Voltzilla gun. You could have the Longview Voltzilla gun because it's got a better sight on it or something like that, or you could have the Big Shot Voltzilla gun, and it would just mean that it had a better capacity magazine on that one. And that's kind of how the systems worked. But the components were always within each manufacturer. So with Borderlands 4, they now have this new system where components will actually be able to cross manufacturer. So you could get a gun that is a hybrid that has some components of one manufacturer and some components of another, which provides for a lot more variety in the gun variation in the game. And that is a big deal. That is something we definitely wanted in the game. I don't know if I think it's enough, but I think there's a few other things that I probably will touch on in this video where I think we've actually got at least 2 other contributing new elements to that system, which could mean that despite all reservations I have about the game, it could actually mean that this, you know, could actually be very good. Gearbox may have actually hit the nail on the head this time, which would be, you know, would be great, at least on the gun variety side of things. Here we're in one of the cities of Kairos, which are in cages. You can see this sort of cage over the top here, and these have very, very tall structures, sort of timekeepers towers I've been calling those, that are attached to that, where I think the people are enslaved and have been you know, doing work for the timekeeper and whatever kind of plot that he's up to. This one appears to be one of the currently lived in and functional cities, although I think that there's at least one which is an abandoned city, but we will see a bit of that later on. Here we have a clip of Eamon coming in here, which is our new sort of, I don't know, he looks like a very, very unhappy Father Christmas, really. I'm not very sure that I like the design on him, but it's something else, particularly on the fact that he's got a lot of augmented components, and you know, it hurts me that every sort of part of him is heavily armored or robotic except for his six-pack. Like, what are you talking about? Like, that's the squishiest part and one of the most vital. Wear nothing on your feet, man. What's going on? Doing one of his abilities here, which is this dual fire and ice axe. Back that up just so we can have a little bit more of a look at those enemies. We've got this very big kind of monster here. These crystals on this sort of monster are a theme. They do show up on some of the other kind of wildlife and monsters in the game, so I don't know if that's to do with something that's going to happen in the lore or something to do with the location or type of animals they are. Worth noting, almost all of these psychos down here appear to have the same gun, which doesn't hugely encourage me, but we've got this other guy up here, which is more of a badass guy. You've seen these guys in the trailers so far, where they have a very, very big kind of arm and have other kind of bits of kit on them and have a bit more unique attack patterns and such. But yeah, this looks good. We like big monsters. That's definitely, you know, for me, Vaultzilla, like the channel, the whole point of the channel is that we want to fight bigger and bigger monsters, bigger threats, more interesting, you know, variety on that front. We're seeing some good stuff. Elpis in the background there, and I think on the background on the right here at some point, I think maybe we see one of the other most significant buildings or sort of structures, which is like built into a mountain. I'm not sure if that's meant to be that one, but there's this big mountain we've talked about a number of times that has a big pink beam coming out of it. It's been shown in a lot of footage, and it's obviously very tied into the story. I do wonder whether that is going to have some functionality in how Elpis is destroyed or reconnected, because I wonder if Elpis will actually start destroyed and the timekeeper is having to pull the key back together in order to make it function, and that's going to be part of what we do, because there's gameplay that certainly implies that we go to Elpis at some point. You have shots there when you're looking down back into Kairos, so we should get gameplay there. This is Harlow, again one of our Vault Hunters. She is the Gravatar or Graviton, something like that, and she has very Siren-like abilities, but it's all technologically based. She's very technological. And we have this kind of mixed color effect on here. So that ties into another thing that we've seen on the weapon front, which makes me think that there will be a new burn type which can apply to weapons, which will be either they're going to have it so it's called something to do with gravity, which would then explain why her abilities have this look, or it's just going to be like a rainbow burn, like it's basically just going to be a mix of the existing other burns, so it's like a cocktail, as we have seen in some abilities for the Vault Hunters in the past. So it's good to have that as an extra factor if that's a particularly more sought after or powerful burn type, because it's covering more bases. That could then tie into with the weapons. If you're getting one like that, then you're getting something that's extra special in that regard, and really yet again adds to this really good structure that could exist in the loot chase. We saw this in the, I want to say it was the first trailer, the first look trailer at least, where there was some legendaries that came, there was like a shower of loot and then legendaries on the floor, and I think every legendary had a rainbow glow on the gun as well. So I think that is how we will identify these. So it may only be that may only apply to legendaries, which would make sense. And here we get Rafa. Rafa is an assassin type character in this exosuit. I wonder if Rafa is actually a nod to Battleborn, because there was one of the best characters, or most prominent characters, was called Wrath, R-A-T-H. But he was a dual blades assassin type playable character, and he did sort of like whirling around with the blades, very similar to what we're seeing with Wrath here. So I wonder if there is some nod or connection or some internal thing that Gearbox has put together in order to either put some elements into this character, or just, you know, a bit of fun maybe with the name. And here's our first bit of proper gameplay footage in this trailer. Really love the pop on this gun, the colors, very nice paint job on that. So that may be a stock thing, or an additional thing that's been added with weapon skins or what have you. Appears to be a Maliwan SMG, I guess, or maybe an assault rifle. And this is Wrath holding this one, and he has, I think, one of his abilities active at the moment, where you have these two shoulder turrets that are also firing at his target. You've got quite a lot of buildings in the back there, but I can't really tell exactly where we are on this front. And then we've got this kind of Archaeopteryx style mutant enemy with massive guns and machines on its back. Looks absolutely crazy. Closed in, perhaps, sort of like an arena fight maybe. He looks good fun. Something very important to note here is that this gun is gold and white. So gold and white is a combination of colors that seems to be very prominent in Borderlands 4. So this may just be a weapon skin, or this may be significant that this weapon has something very specifically different about it. And I'll touch on that a bit more in a moment. Either way, it looks like a fun gun and a fun boss. One of Eamon's abilities there against one of the bulkheads, which is one of the larger troops of the Timekeeper and the Order. We've seen this area a couple times now. I think this is the same area that's featured in the deep dive. Not too much you can see there, but we'll see more of that later. This is in one of the Ripper style areas. So there's meant to be 4, I think, main kind of broken up areas of the game, and I think we've seen, like, this, to simplify it, you've got one that's a white snowy area, one that's a more sandy, aridy, more classic Borderlands Mad Maxy kind of area, one that's a lot more green, and I think maybe that ties into the more tropical area as well. So you've got, you know, those sort of 3 breaks, and I think maybe the 4th place actually hasn't been shown yet. I think maybe that's going to be a bit specifically different, but everything we've seen so far can kind of be tied into those, and there is a spectrum within them. But so this would be in one of the more dusty Mad Maxy areas. We got this guy here. I don't think he's a boss. I think he's just sort of a badassy kind of guy. Jumping down here with this big kind of hammer thing he's got going on. Some nice speakers. There's some vibes there of Mouthpiece from Borderlands 3. And we've got this heavy weapon here. Yet again, like really fun. I like all these bright colours. We do a lot of this on the channel, just making things look as garish and offensively to your eyes as possible. But yeah, we've got this heavy weapon here, and the heavy weapons for the Vault Hunters now, I'm not sure I've fully understood this, but I think you have your 4 standard weapon slots, and now you're going to do a different kind of press, very Destiny, where you're going to have a heavy weapon that you pull out, so your heavy weapon will actually end up being more like a like an ult. So I don't think you have to pick up ammo for it either. I think it's just on a cooldown, and you just, rather than pressing for an ult, you can press for your heavy weapon and then spam that out. I think I'd prefer more control on that. I'd have preferred they stuck in a radial with double weapon layers, or something similar to more like an old Doom or Duke Nukem or something, where you've got a radial and you can select from 8 weapons that you have equipped at the same time. So then you've got 1 of each weapon type you can access, rather than this. But there is a lot of things that Gearbox seem to have done with Borderlands 4 where they're really trying to appease Destiny players and casual players, which is, those things worry me a lot, because, you know, Destiny was trying to copy them, and now they're trying to copy them back. Like, there wasn't that many decisions on that front that I think Destiny ever made better than Borderlands. So to copy them just seems, you know, counterintuitive. We've got this kind of elephant guy here. Yet again, big machines and everything on the back. I think this is going to be tied to a specific sort of story, with someone who's meddling with the wildlife, because we got that big kind of Archaeopteryx kind of bird kind of beast with the big mechanics on it, this guy. And maybe that's going to be a specific kind of path that we take. The sort of small sort of crystals on here, not quite like that other creature before, but sort of a similar design element there. So I don't know if that's going to be tied in the snowy area. I like the way he looks though as well. New animation on the psychos here. So I guess we've got, I think we've seen these on sticks as well, like the sort of explosives. New angle they've gone with skulls basically full of explosives, and this psycho here is just batting it away. I think that's just an animation that they're going to be doing. And we've got one of Harlow's abilities going in the back here, where we can see how they've expanded on existing Borderlands ults and then tried to up their game. So this is very similar to some Siren abilities in the past, but now we hold 2. And I think we see a clip where she's able to hold 3 all at the same time. So, and that's sort of good, because that also implies that we're going to be having to deal with that many enemies at once. There's one shot, I think, in this trailer where we see I think there's almost 20 enemies all on the screen at once, and I really hope that they've got their systems working so that kind of chaos can exist, because that's one of the things that makes Borderlands special, is just the numbers. And a lot of Borderlands players even I don't think have properly experienced how good that can be when you just have higher level enemies and just all this chaos going on. Because with the earlier Borderlands games, you had to get to the second playthrough on Borderlands 1 and the third playthrough on Borderlands 2 to really experience what Borderlands was all about. And it's sad that they didn't have some sort of structure for that in Borderlands 3, but they tried to shortcut it by just making the game a little bit more hectic, I think, on the first playthrough. I don't think it had quite the same effect. It wasn't as good as Borderlands 2, but you know, it shows that they're thinking in the right direction. We got to see here just utilizing the barrel as well, along with her ult, just to do some good damage to them. What do we have on the weapon front there? We've got a Maliwan weapon here. We've seen variations of this type of gun. I'm not sure if it's the lighting, but this orange kind of makes me feel like maybe this is significant, that this maybe has a Jacobs component on it. Maybe there's like a Jacobs barrel, so this might be one of the mixed weapons, but you know, that's just I'm pretty unclear about that. We get this rocket firing, I would say sort of assault rifle, maybe sniper there. Nice little double jump switch to this shotgun, which I think has a little bit of a spam double shot there, and I'm not sure if the ricochet off there towards the other enemy, I think that's maybe just a little indication that either the gun or the character have something going on that's just adding a little extra, little bit tasty effect to that. And this shot is in one of the caged in cities. This is the wall, and this one is, I believe, it's all overrun with all this wildlife and that. So when Lilith has turned up in Kairos with Elpis, it's destroyed the shield, it's caused a cataclysmic event, and it's changed a lot of things on Kairos. And as part of that, a lot of people escaped from some of these prison cities and such. And I think this is one where they've escaped, and it's kind of all, it's abandoned now. It's abandoned, and it's been overtaken by wildlife. It's been overtaken by wildlife, and you've got this kind of parasitic stuff that then is affecting people and creatures alike in this kind of area. All these drilling machines, where I think the Rippers have deliberately forced their way back into the city in order to try and, you know, salvage things, take stuff they want, because it's abandoned, it's not being used by the timekeeper anymore. Nice sort of wider shot here. Quite a few enemies on screen, bit of variation with those. This is on the edge, I think, of the snowy area and the green area. Sorry, one of the more rippery, arid areas, sorry. And then we've got Eamon on the side, Rafa holding the gun, and Vex off to the left. And pretty cool paint job again. I like this sort of oil slick kind of colours. And we've got that as a TDR being thrown out, which I don't think we see something too fancy with the effect there, but Vex shooting that and it just exploding, making a lot of mess. This is Eamon doing one of the new heavy weapon animations, like really over the top. I guess I'm fine with that. I don't think I'm very keen on this whole sort of concept of switching it to a heavy weapon like this. We get a bit of variation on the skin here. So Eamon wearing some different clothes, and I think most of the skins for this game so far look trash, which isn't hugely out of suit. Most of the heads, you got more than 30 heads for characters in Borderlands 3, and I think most people would agree that only about 5 of them are really worth your time. But anyway, good to see that they're doing variation with that. You know, if they throw enough out there, then hopefully we'll have some things that will fit our own tastes. So this is wide. This is the shot where it's saying you've got a lot of different enemies. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. You know, I think I got a pause on this before and it was 19 or 20. So you can see there's a lot going on, and that looks like a lot of fun. So hopefully this is not uncommon in the game. Harlow on the left there. Jump to this shot behind one of the power station areas that is sending power to the Timekeeper's cities. Got one of the spawning ships here, which spawns in enemies. And then we've got, I don't think we've seen this shield before, so one of the Timekeeper forces, one of the Order, using this big sort of body-sized shield, energy shield. So I guess we'll be getting some more of that, similar to how we used to with Hyperion weapons and such. And then you can see this Order guy at the back with this orangey glow. I don't think I'll touch on this just yet, but just for now, just note that they have this mode where they're sort of able to sort of power up for a time. And also, I guess we can point out at the same time that when these guys get obliterated, they drop a gold looking kind of liquid. They don't just have normal blood. It's a yellowy, goldy, orangey kind of liquid. And then we've got this new pickup here, which people have made a lot of fuss about. I don't know what the complete story with this is yet. My thoughts are still this is health or related to health, or the new, I think with health, I think we have to actually activate it now. I think that can also be a slot where instead of health we can maybe have buffs. So I think that this is tied to that. Some people are talking about it being a currency or something, but You know, I'm not convinced. It certainly shouldn't be if the beam is red, so I think it's relevant to that. A few triangles here. Talking about the triangles earlier, triangles are all over the order for sure. Even the text and the language they use around the game. Went a little bit far there. Then we've got a Maliwan looking sniper, I guess. Not too much, like a nice little design, nice paint job on that one. I don't think it's too much to point out. But this one here, now this is really starting to get into the more interesting conversation that's come about as a basis of this recent gameplay. So we've got this kind of, you can't see it very well on this clip, but I'll show you another one in a minute. You've got kind of gold coming out of the ammo chamber here, and that could be that this gun is going to be a cash infused gun. It may just be a new way that they're signifying that is the case, because sometimes in Borderlands games, I think we had it in 2, I don't know if we did in 1, but in 3 we definitely did, where some weapon variations would actually have a bonus to the damage and bonus to the use, where by switching the ammo to your money. So it's taking your money every time you're shooting rather than a specific ammo type. I really hope that that isn't what this is, because it feels over the top to represent it that way. It'd be good to have that mechanic still in the game as just a bit of fun, but it's only a side thing. But we see this a couple of times in this trailer, and I think this ties to that whole thing of seeing gold on the the timekeeper, and on the other characters. And I think this is tied to the third component that may exist in the loot chase, in the gun chase, trying to find the best guns. And I'll keep this moving, and I'll explain a little bit more of that in a minute. We've got this one here, not a very good angle, but we've got this is one of the new gun manufacturers, so this is a Ripper gun. We've seen a few of these. I think this is the one I'm most interested in so far. Ripper guns do look really fun. Nice little attachment here, where this gun is going to have a melee modifier, which we've seen a lot of the time on guns in Borderlands. So when this one's equipped, it's got like, often it's just a knife under the barrel or something. They've been creative and put like a bladed knuckle duster on there, so that one's just going to have bonus if you melee while you're holding it. Aiming at the back here, and some loot dropping outside this doorway. Right, a little bit more gun here and a little bit of a wider shot. So this is one of the power stations we've seen a few different times, and you can sort of see here, going on about the triangles for the text. They've made it very stylized based on triangles. Look, triangle, triangle, triangles everywhere. And we've got like a DMR or a sniper-y style gun here. I like the look of that one, bit different. There's definitely going to be some good choice and some good variation in the way the guns are represented, so that's kind of what it's all about. Got the mountainous snowy area in the background here, but we're looking out from the green area. Off to the right here you can see this sort of hologram of a big floating head. We get a closer image of this later on, but I think that this is tied to a character we'll see, a big fat guy. I think this is sort of his area over here, one of the places we could visit in the game. And you can see these pipes going through, there's pipes going all the way through, and this is one of the walled in cities here, so I think just off to the left there'll be one of the massive towers. And this is Vex holding the gun. Still Vex holding the gun. Similar kind of weapon, maybe? I feel like maybe still in the DMR or sniper class of weapon, maybe, although it is a shorter nozzle. I like these rectangular, very angular barrels they've gone for this time around. Some of the guns helps look a bit different. One of the more rippery areas, this architecture here, like you tend to see this a lot, which seems to sort of signify the Rippers. It is embarrassing how similar it looks to the Fallen in Destiny, but I guess a lot of these guys are pulling off of the same resources and inspiration in the first place, so fair enough. Nothing else too much to see there. Now we can see the gold here again coming out of, I guess, is this going to be where the ammo is? I guess the ammo is down the bottom of this gun, so I'm not sure. Either way, we've got gold coming out of this gun, and So I think in the same way that we see those kind of drips or kind of that sort of stuff coming down the timekeeper's face, I think that that is going to be, it's either going to be a new element in the game, because we see the Order firing this kind of gold triangular material shots, laser, whatever you want to call it. We see that in a lot of the clips, and I think that maybe that's going to be a new burn type. So we don't have slag anymore. Radiation didn't really work very well in Borderlands 3, so I wonder if they can do a rework on that, and this is going to be kind of part of the Timekeeper and the Corrosians tech that we're able to infuse into the guns, and that will be a different modifier. And yet again, I think that there's a chance that if this kind of specific thing is on your gun, maybe we won't get an orange legendary beam, maybe we'll get a gold one. Maybe this will be like the sort of creme de la creme of what we're aiming for on the gun front, to get these ones that have this additional multiplier with these special components. And yeah, so it may just be a new burn type, or it may be the equivalent for anointments, maybe. So instead of, you know, the way that the anointment system worked last time around, it will mean that you've got this kind of timekeeper, arcane, whatever they're going to call it, modifier that can be on your gun that, you know, gives an extra effect or an extra bonus for one thing or other. But I think that that's not just the cash infused. I really hope that that's not the case, because the weapon system is sounding good, but it definitely does need some extra factors in order for it to keep the chase going as long as it needs to, and keep the weapon variety rare enough that you don't just have everyone just picking up all the same guns all the time. You want people to be able to create guns and like have guns where you see them in the game and you're like, wow, what is that? They need to make sure there's no way that people can dupe these things this time around. But to have like truly rare guns where people will be able to make content and talk about a gun and have a gun that's really, really unique and special is something that game developers in general just do not do. If these guys are doing it, then, you know, that's a big deal for sure. This is one of the city areas. I'm not sure. We don't appear to have a grid over this one, so this one may be an entirely external city, or it may be that the grid has been busted open. Don't know. Another TDR weapon here with some fun legs running around, playing on the idea of being cute. I think we maybe, I haven't got any audio on this, but perhaps we hear a gun talking in a sort of fun voice at some point, so I don't know if it's that one, but another shot here of Trouble, and this is just having a bit of fun for the audience. Adorable little space kitty. I say adorable little, but I think one of the base abilities with Trouble means that Trouble turns into a badass rank, so it's going to be, I don't know if this is the badass version right here or what. It did look quite big. Again, we get one of the kind of little pickups dropping over the side here and here. I mean, these things are everywhere, so it seems odd that there would be a currency when they have such frequency. They definitely drop more in line with what I consider traditionally has been kind of, you know, you got money dropping and health, and then a couple of guns. That seems, from that standard enemy, that seems pretty normal. Vex here again, and we get a lot of Vex in all of this. I think they're very aware that Vex is pretty much the only interesting character out of the four, in my opinion. Rafa is, you know, a bit of fun. I think more generic kind of soldiery class, but seems okay, a bit more neutral. Harlow and Eamon at the moment, not really interested, which is disappointing. Current team seem to be very keen on swearing. I'm not sure why. I thought we were trying to be a bit more adult with this game, but oh well. Cool little weird psycho head robotic deal going on here. Chaotic kind of scene with lots of people doing all sorts of stuff, so that's exactly what we want to see from Borderlands. A couple of different guns and stuff on display there, but I don't think I could really point too much out. You've got pipes going through the back there, which is the kind of pipes that are feeding into everything. Nothing major in the background. Nice volume of enemies on the scene, and yeah, the big mechanical head thing doing some weird stuff, so nice. Eamon here doing a ground slam, one of his new abilities, and the elephanty kind of mutanty thing in the background that has a big car on the back. I wonder if this will be presented to us by us going and looking at a marker and there just being a car there, and then as soon as you get close to the car, obviously this thing emerges from the floor, a little bit like Wilhelm did in Borderlands 2 when we went looking for the power source. Nice big skulls everywhere, always good fun. And we're seeing some of the individual vehicles, I think Digi-Runners these are called, which is your portable vehicle you can pull out at any time. A little bit of wildlife down there. I like these guys, sort of a little bit reptilian, a little bit feral at the same time. The vehicles here, we got Rafa's one at the front, and then Vex's, and this one is Eamon's, but I think this looks different to, I don't know, we don't get a good look at it because Vex is in the way, but it looks like it's different than the original one that they showed us for Eamon, so I don't know if that's to do with some variation potential, or whether that's just that they went for a different design. Elpis up in the sky here. Vex in the snowy area. I think we've seen a further out shot of this complex before in a couple of shots. Vex doing a Kira slide there. Did a little short about that on the channel. This is, I think, the more slummy city, but I'm not sure about that because all the lights and that are on, whether they're still just on, but I thought this was the more abandoned place, but maybe there's 4 cities that we've seen so far, because I was thinking it was 3, maybe it's 4. More adult swearing. Lots of people in cages. So these guys are all controlled by bolts. They're implants that the timekeeper puts in people to control them, and that system's all sort of fallen apart, and that's where the Rippers have come from, because they've ripped out a lot of these bolts. Again, we've got one of the Order here with the gold and white. I don't think they're all gold and white, so I think that this implies that this guy is maybe a little bit higher rank than some of them, or in a more prestigious area of the game. But that gold and white shows up quite a bit. It doesn't tend to be on their weapons from what we've seen. The weapons tend to be more black or red. More gold and white and triangles everywhere. Picture of the timekeeper in the background. Break your GPU. And this is Rafa doing his ability here, which, like I say, sort of makes me think a lot about Wrath from Battleborn, just the double blade spinning. And then this is the guy I think we see the hologram head of, and this guy is, so I think it's related to this triangle in his palm, where I think this guy has, you know, he's sort of turning into boss mode basically. He's activating this change in his biology, so that he's going to be, you know, this is him turning into boss mode to have a fight or whatever. And we get this sort of white and gold overlay that happens as part of that. So I think that all ties into that gold material we're seeing coming out of the guns and on the timekeeper's face. This looks a little bit dodgy until it transforms across. But yeah, so you got this guy. I think there's maybe going to be a bit of a story here where, I don't know, like the old sort of gods and sort of Greek mythology and all of that maybe comes into it. These guys maybe were here on Kairos, and sort of they've ended up being this sort of super class of beings based on this sort of technology they've found that or created that allows them to empower themselves like this, perhaps living to crazy ages and all the rest of it. And they've imprisoned other people that were there, as well as using this material to create the Order and all these automatons that are doing their bidding for them. A little shot here next to one of the power stations with Harlow, Rafa, Eamon and Vex. Some different skin stuff here. I guess this is one that I was moaning about earlier. Bit of a different one on Rafa and Harlow, and this is quite a Borderlands 3 style one with the sort of blue lights on Vex. don't know there's too much else we can see there. Red shotgun. Don't know, the quality on that clip's not fantastic. I mean, is that one of Rafa's blades, or is that... It almost looks like maybe he's holding a standard melee weapon, which I'd not noticed before. It's sort of almost like a baton, isn't it? So that might be something, might not. To see more melee weapons in the game would be really, really cool. Would like to see that. We got that in Wonderlands. You got a melee weapon that sort of switched out with your standard melee, so your normal punch or fast sort of melee that you would do, you would attach a melee weapon to it. That's fine, but I'd also like to see it where you could switch from having guns to actually having melee weapons where you ran around with that would have maybe elemental effects and all the rest of it. But I don't know if they've gone that far. This guy, so this guy is basically, because he's a grunt, he's sort of empowered here, the same as that big guy was kind of changing mode. Like this is like a temporary kind of boost or buff that the Order grunt here is using to empower itself briefly. So it's like a minutia kind of version of the same thing. And all the triangles coming off, and I think that this potentially is going to be kind of the burn. This is going to be like, you know, usable in the guns as a new element. Grappling hook there to grab this little bomb and then use it against these guys. Nice to see that's not just for mobility. Pretty crazy looking pistol here. I think this is an under dagger as well in Vex's hand. That looks sort of Jacob's with a skin on it potentially. Pretty cool lizard here, guy here with an axe on his tongue. So that's pretty resourceful and very Borderlands, just a bit of fun. We see this boss in the deep dive gameplay as well. Nice design. This guy makes me think very much Wonderlands and Battleborn. I wonder if there was some inspiration or some tie there. But this is actually one of the Rippers, so you'll see it as it gets a bit closer, but there is actually a psycho down here, and this is all just a big machine sort of attached to him. Blah, blah. And then Vault Hunters jumping up here, each doing one of their abilities, I think. So I think we've seen this one where she fires out the big kind of rainbow orb that then does a very, very big explosion. Eamon with his dual axes. I don't know if we've properly seen this one in effect, but I think there's little blades in Vex's hands here. I think maybe we have seen one or two clips. I think it's when she has that ability equipped, it's kind of a bit like Gambit from X-Men, because I think she's empowering those, or like powering them up rather, with her sort of psionic energy or whatever it is, and then, you know, throwing them out in different directions to take down enemies. And Rafa with his kind of exo gun there as well, which sometimes is on his shoulders and sometimes he seems to have in his hand, and it fires like a big blue projectile, I think, from what we've seen. Just a few of the grunts. Yet again, Elpis in line with this vault door of sorts. And there we go. They've done, I think this is the 4th variation on the Borderlands 4 logo that we've seen so far, and I think this is definitely my favourite. It has the best character to it. They've got sort of the mix of metal in here, but then they've gone for this film grain look, which I think just looks more fun, and I like that kind of vibe more than they had just a flat white one, flat yellow one, and like a full kind of metal looking one. And then we get I presume this is the box art for the game. I'm hard pressed to imagine how you could decide this was the box art for Borderlands 4. It looks absolutely terrible. It looks very similar to the sorts of results you would get if you were asking AI art for something. It just doesn't look good. Like, I'm not sure in what universe where, you know, the system has been, excuse me, hit the microphone. The system has been the finger guns the whole time, and he's doing the finger guns towards us. But Borderlands 1, it was one finger gun. Borderlands 2, it's 2 finger guns. Borderlands 3, they did change it up, and they had the kind of more religious sort of motif that they ended up going with, which was quite elaborate, but it was a nice bit of art for its composition. But then a lot of the time later, and on Steam and other places, you'll see one where they do it with a 3-finger gun, And so they kept that theme the whole time. In what universe where you have these rippers that now have all these augmented components, in what universe don't you do this so you've got the 2-finger guns with his normal hands and then 2 like of his mechanical arms coming out above? That's the obvious artwork for this. I don't understand who makes these decisions. I mean, that would have just looked really cool, like the perspective and angle on this, and like I say, the particular composition. I feel like there was a throwaway one with this, with either Borderlands 2 or Borderlands 3, when they were chucking around various art that may have been what they were going to go for. There was stuff that was very similar to this, and people were just like, that's horrible. So, oh well. I mean, the box art is the least of the worries, for sure, but I just, you know, it just builds such concerns. But anyway, that's it for having a look at this one. I'll have a look at the deep dive and have a rant over that. Also, there's some other images of skins I want to have a look at, most of which are not looking promising, but overall, I think there's, you know, we've got as many positives here as we do negatives, so I just really hope that when the game, you know, finally gets to us, they've worked out enough for it to be a good time. But thank you very much for listening to me blather on about this for however long this has been. I hope that you found that interesting. If you did, please do like and subscribe. Please do comment on this video. I really appreciate you guys checking this out. And yeah, I'll speak to you real soon. Take it easy. Have a great day. Peace out.